There comes a moment in every person's life when they must decide who will rule their mind, the world around them or the world within. Most people spend their days reacting, chasing after every distraction, surrendering their peace to the smallest disturbances. But the individual who rises above this chaos, who trains themselves to remain calm when others tremble, is the one who steps onto the path of true mastery. To stay unbothered is not to ignore reality, nor is it to pretend challenges do not exist. It is to stand firm in the knowledge that nothing has power over you unless you grant it access to your thoughts. Every disturbance in life comes with a question. Will you react impulsively, or will you choose the higher ground of self-control? The answer to that question determines the quality of your life. When you refuse to be shaken, something remarkable happens. The noise around you begins to lose its influence. People's opinions fade, problems shrink, and your mind becomes a powerful instrument, capable of directing your destiny with precision and purpose. Calmness becomes your companion, clarity your guide, and confidence your natural state. This is the art of staying unbothered, the quiet strength that turns adversity into opportunity and pressure into power. It is not a gift reserved for the few. It is a skill that any person can cultivate once they learn to command their own mind. There is a truth that many people spend their whole lives overlooking, not because it is hidden, but because it is so simple that the mind often brushes past it without understanding its possibilities. The truth is that your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your interpretations, your responses, is the only domain over which you have absolute command. Everything else in life, no matter how permanent it may seem, is outside your direct control. People will do what they choose to do. Circumstances will shift without warning. Plans will break, storms will rise, frustrations will appear uninvited. Yet the one thing that remains untouched by the world's unpredictability is the authority you hold over your own mind. Most individuals never discover this power because they spend their days reacting rather than directing. They wait for the world to treat them kindly before they allow themselves to feel peaceful. They depend on perfect conditions to feel confident. They hope that problems will stay out of their way so they can remain calm. But the person who lives this way traps their emotional well-being inside a fragile bubble, easily broken by the slightest inconvenience. To understand your real strength is to realize that peace is not something that arrives from the outside. It is something you cultivate from within, deliberately, consistently, and without the need for permission from circumstances. The greatest revolutions in a person's life begin not when the world changes for them, but when they decide to change their relationship with the world. Your inner world is like a kingdom, and you are the ruler of that kingdom. What enters it, what stays in it, what influences it, these are decisions only you can make. You choose whether to let someone's negativity echo inside your thoughts. You choose whether a setback becomes a source of frustration or a catalyst for new strength. You choose whether criticism becomes poison or fuel. The world may knock on your door with 1,000 trials, but you decide which of them is allowed inside. When you grasp this truth deeply, something extraordinary happens. You begin to separate yourself from the chaos around you. You start to see that problems have no power unless you grant them space in your mind. You realize that anger, fear, worry, and insecurity are not forces that invade you. They are responses you allow. And when you start taking ownership of those responses, you no longer feel like a victim of life. You become the author of your own experience. Control over the inner world does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending challenges do not exist. It means possessing the discipline to guide your emotions rather than being guided by them. It means refusing to let temporary disturbances create permanent turmoil. It means recognizing that the calmest person in the room is often the most powerful, because calmness is the evidence of a mind that refuses to surrender to chaos. Think of how often people give away their power without even noticing. Someone makes a careless comment, and their entire day is ruined. A small delay interrupts their plan, and frustration poisons their mood. They see a challenge appear, and immediately they declare defeat in their thoughts before any action has been taken. These reactions are not signs of weakness in character. They are signs of an undisciplined inner world. But discipline can be built. Strength can be trained. And the building begins with awareness. The awareness that every emotional reaction is a choice. When you begin to observe your reactions, you start to see the space between stimulus and response. In that space lies your power. You recognize that you can pause, you can breathe, you can choose a response that aligns with who you want to be rather than how your emotions urge you to behave in the moment. This choice, repeated again and again, becomes the foundation of an inner world that no external force can disrupt. And here is the most empowering part. Controlling your inner world does not require perfect circumstances, years of training, or rare talent. It simply requires intention. Every moment offers a doorway to reclaiming your inner authority. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to practice calmness. Every misunderstanding becomes an opportunity to practice patience. Every disappointment becomes an opportunity to practice resilience. You do not become unbothered by avoiding life. You become unbothered by engaging with life from a place of strength rather than fear. A person who has mastered this art walks through the world with a quiet confidence. They are not easily shaken. They are not easily offended. They do not react to every disturbance because they do not allow those disturbances to govern their inner state. People may call them calm, stoic, focused, or resilient, but what they truly are is self-governed. They live from the inside outward, not from the outside inward. Once you understand that your inner world belongs to you and you alone, you begin to unlock a level of freedom that few people ever experience. It is the freedom of not being controlled by circumstances. It is the freedom of not being disturbed by others. It is the freedom of knowing that while the world may be unpredictable, your response never has to be. And in that freedom lies the greatest power a human being can possess. There is a simple principle in life that most people fail to recognize, yet it is the foundation of true power and lasting success. Every reaction you have, every emotional response you allow, is a deliberate choice. It is not an automatic consequence of what happens to you. The world does not have the power to make you angry, fearful, or discouraged unless you permit it. Circumstances are neutral, indifferent to your destiny. It is your interpretation, your decision to respond, that determines whether they strengthen you or weaken you. The individual who understands this principle begins to rise above mediocrity and claim the extraordinary life that so many only dream of. Observe the world for a moment. Most people react to events, words, and situations like leaves carried by the wind. They are tossed here and there by the opinions of others, the setbacks they encounter, and the unexpected twists of life. A careless remark ruins their morning. A minor inconvenience triggers a chain of frustration that lasts all day. A disappointment convinces them that life is cruel and unfair. They have surrendered their minds to circumstance, unaware that the one thing they could control, their response, remains untouched, waiting to be seized. The strong, however, do not give away this authority. They understand that their reaction is a tool, a lever by which they can shape their life, rather than a reflex that allows life to shape them. The difference between ordinary people and those who achieve remarkable success is found entirely in this arena of choice. The ordinary allow their emotions to run unchecked, letting frustration, anger, or fear dictate their words and actions. The extraordinary recognize the pause between stimulus and response, the silent moment in which the mind can decide how to act. They know that this pause is not merely a moment of restraint, but a moment of power. Within it lies the ability to transform obstacles into opportunities, to convert criticism into motivation, to convert adversity into a stepping stone toward greater achievement. To master this choice requires awareness. It requires the ability to observe oneself with honesty and clarity. It requires asking a simple yet profound question in the midst of every challenge. What is the wisest response I can make right now? Not the immediate, emotionally driven one, but the one that serves your highest purpose. It is in these moments, repeated countless times, that character is built, discipline is strengthened, and true leadership emerges. Those who ignore this principle may achieve temporary gains, but their lives will be a cycle of reaction, chaos, and unfulfilled potential. Those who embrace it step onto a path of intentional living, where each response is measured, deliberate, and empowering. Consider how often people lose control over their circumstances because they fail to control themselves. Heated argument spirals out of proportion because both parties respond impulsively. A career opportunity is squandered because fear convinces someone to remain silent. A friendship dissolves because pride dictates a reaction that inflames rather than resolves. All of these situations demonstrate a simple truth. The outer world reacts predictably to inner turmoil. When your mind is calm, your choices are guided by clarity, foresight, and purpose. When your mind is unsettled, your choices are governed by impulse, emotion, and the whims of the moment. Strength, therefore, is not about controlling the world. It is about mastering the choice of how to respond to it.
This mastery begins with the recognition that no one can provoke you without your consent.
No event can disturb your peace unless you invite it. This is not a matter of suppressing your feelings, but of governing them. It is the ability to feel, think, and act in alignment with your objectives, regardless of the pressures surrounding you. The moment you realize that every emotional reaction is yours to choose, you take ownership of your life. You no longer wait for circumstances to align with your desires. You no longer seek validation or reassurance from outside sources. You stand firmly in your power, knowing that the strength of your life is measured not by what happens to you, but by how you respond. Mastering your reactions also cultivates resilience. When challenges arise, the ordinary person sees only difficulty. The strong person sees lessons, opportunities, and the chance to strengthen their inner resolve, to act with calm, to think clearly under pressure, to respond rather than react. These are not traits that come naturally to all, but they are skills that can be learned. Each time you choose deliberately, you are training your mind, strengthening your spirit, and expanding your capacity to influence your circumstances positively. You begin to walk through the world with a quiet confidence that is unshakable because it is rooted in self-control rather than external approval. The power of choice in reaction also extends to relationships, communication, and influence. Leaders, innovators, and visionaries understand that the ability to respond thoughtfully creates trust, earns respect, and inspires loyalty. A single measured response can diffuse conflict, build alliances, and open doors that impulsive reactions would have closed. Ordinary people give away this influence because they allow their emotions to dictate their words. The extraordinary preserve it because they recognize the value of mastering the silent moments between stimulus and response. Each choice becomes a building block, forming a life of purpose, strength, and remarkable achievement. Life presents each of us with challenges, difficulties, and unexpected trials. From the moment we are born, circumstances arise that test our patience, our resolve, and our very character. Yet the secret of those who succeed where others falter lies not in avoiding these obstacles, but in understanding a principle so powerful, yet so frequently ignored. No obstacle possesses true power over you, except the power you allow it to have. The events themselves are neutral. They carry no inherent strength to disturb your mind or dictate your emotions. It is the response you give, the permission you grant, that transforms a neutral situation into either a source of despair or a catalyst for progress. Consider the countless examples of people who faced tremendous adversity yet remained unshaken. They were not spared hardship. On the contrary, their lives were full of circumstances that would have broken the ordinary. What separated them from others was the recognition that no setback, no insult, no disappointment could control them unless they permitted it. They understood that while they could not always control external events, they could always control the way they received them, the way they interpreted them, and the way they allowed those events to influence their emotions and decisions. That understanding is the foundation of true resilience, the very essence of a mind unbothered by the chaos around it. Obstacles will always exist. They are an unavoidable part of life's landscape. One cannot walk through life expecting a smooth path free of challenge. To do so is to court disappointment, for the world is neither kind nor predictable. Yet those who achieve greatness perceive obstacles differently. They see them not as walls designed to trap them, but as tests designed to reveal the strength within. And in that perception lies their freedom. The obstacle itself has no power. The power resides in the mind of the individual who confronts it. If one chooses fear, frustration, or anger, the obstacle appears insurmountable. If one chooses calm, focus, and determination, the same obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to advance. This understanding requires a shift in awareness. Many people waste their lives reacting emotionally to every disturbance, giving away their energy and mental clarity to forces that were never meant to rule them. They allow insults to sting, delays to frustrate, and failures to discourage them because they grant these events permission to dominate their thoughts and shape their feelings. But the person who masters the mind sees all obstacles as neutral. They acknowledge their presence, assess the situation rationally, and determine the most constructive response. The world may attempt to push, pull, and provoke them, but if they refuse to yield internally, the world's power over them is nullified. Control over self is the first and greatest victory. Every obstacle also carries within it the potential for tremendous benefit. A missed opportunity can teach a lesson that no success could impart. A criticism can reveal a weakness to be corrected or a perspective previously unseen. A failure can serve as the proving ground for character, patience, and persistence. Yet none of these benefits manifest unless the individual refuses to let frustration, resentment, or fear dictate their reaction. By granting the obstacle no emotional control, the mind remains free to see the truth of the situation, to act rationally, and to seize the opportunity hidden within the challenge. The obstacle becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. The difference between those who succeed and those who falter is often subtle yet profound. It is not that successful people encounter fewer problems. It is that they refuse to allow problems to dictate the course of their thoughts and actions. The power of an obstacle is only as strong as the authority we give it. One may face a mountain of difficulty, yet remain serene, confident, and purposeful, while another may stumble over a pebble because they grant it significance through worry and agitation. Strength lies not in the absence of difficulty, but in the ability to remain unshaken by it, to govern one's mind with clarity and determination in the midst of turbulence. Moreover, granting an obstacle no power requires conscious practice. It is not automatic. The mind is naturally inclined to react, to fear, to resist. The ordinary individual allows this inclination to dominate, while the extraordinary individual observes it, recognizes it, and chooses a higher path. Each moment of conscious resistance to panic, anger, or frustration is a victory over the illusion of the obstacle's power. Each deliberate response, chosen over an instinctive reaction, strengthens the mind, fortifies character, and enlarges the capacity for future challenges. Over time, obstacles lose their intimidating presence, for the individual has cultivated an inner environment that no external circumstance can invade without invitation. To understand that obstacles hold no inherent power is to reclaim authority over one's life. One becomes the arbiter of how events affect the heart, the mind, and the spirit. One recognizes that external circumstances are tools, tests, or opportunities, not masters. And with that recognition, the individual walks through life with quiet confidence, clarity of purpose, and the unshakable knowledge that the true power rests not in the world around them, but within themselves. Many people misunderstand the meaning of calmness. They see it as passivity, as indifference, or even as a lack of strength. They mistake the absence of visible agitation for a lack of engagement, as if the person who remains composed is somehow weaker than the one who shouts, complains, or panics at every turn. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. Calmness is the outward expression of mastery over one's inner world. It is the unmistakable sign that the mind is disciplined, the emotions are regulated, and the individual is in full control of the power within. Calmness is strength disguised as serenity, power clothed in patience, and it is available to anyone willing to cultivate it. To understand this, one must first recognize the natural tendency of the mind to react to stimuli. Life is full of disruptions, frustrations, and unexpected trials. The ordinary person sees these disturbances and immediately allows them to dictate behavior. They raise their voice, speak harshly, or act impulsively. Their emotional state becomes the prisoner of external events. They give away the very authority that defines them. Calmness, in contrast, is the conscious refusal to allow circumstances to take control. It is the decision to remain measured, composed, and deliberate regardless of the pressures applied by the outer world. True calmness is not born from ignorance or denial of challenges. It does not mean ignoring reality, pretending problems do not exist, or suppressing emotion. Rather, it is the careful cultivation of clarity and control. It is the ability to observe every circumstance without immediately surrendering to it, to weigh one's options, and to respond with purpose rather than reaction. This calm approach allows for reasoned thought, strategic decision-making, and action that aligns with long-term goals rather than temporary impulses. Those who remain calm in the face of chaos accomplish far more than those who yield to agitation. for their minds are not clouded, their vision is not distorted, and their energy is not wasted.